So what's the difference between a demonist and a shero? Is it your perspective? Is it which side of her wrath that you're on? We're going to talk about Lilith and we're going to explore that. Is she a victim of the patriarchy? Is she misunderstood or is she trouble?
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Curse Breakers. I'm Storm Sestavani, and of course, welcome to our show. If you like the show, please hit the like button at the bottom of your screen or through whatever medium that you're listening to, whether it be YouTube, Google, Apple, Spotify, whatever. Just hit the like button and also turn on the notify button so that you'll be notified about future shows. And if you don't like us, you don't have to watch. Move right on along because we're going to be talking about some heavy issues today. Jacki, I wanted to, in our last episode, we talked a little bit about Lilith from the perspective of um, the female pop star Halsey, using her song from her catalog, Lilith in the Diablo, for soundtrack for the video game. And we talked about, the words that she discussed in regards to the song having a lot to do with, the transformation of the soul and something that's evolving and understanding basically what their problems are. And we put that into your Magic 5. I want to talk a lot more about Lilith tonight. I really want to have a conversation with you because there's, number one, unless I go get a sex change, I'm not going to be a woman. And I'm just not going to be a woman. Okay. It's just not going to happen unless I get a sex change. And I don't have any plans on doing that in the foreseeable future. Just not. Not that I have anything against that. But I'm having a difficult time wrapping my mind around the difference between the historical Judaic, even Sumerian version of Lilith and what she represents today and how she's kind of got to this particular point and why, when there needs to be, at least in my opinion, and especially in regards to magic, there needs to be a balance between the positive and the negative. And if there's not, you can't manifest anything. Okay. And why is it this sanitization? I don't know if we even we will end up calling it sanitization after we get done, but it seems to be the sanitization of this Sumerian goddess, to the point that, she has gone from a succubi baby sucker to now she protects children. I mean, I don't know. Did she decide to become Florence Nightingale? Did she take an RN course? I don't know what's going on here, but we're going to have to talk about it. But first, I got something bigger to talk to you about. We've by the time that people listen to this episode, Venus will no longer be retrograde. But as we're recording it, Venus is retrograde. And I found it interesting that somebody that's had an enormous amount of difficulties in regards to their relationships, Britney Spears, has filed for divorce.
Right.
A year after she got married. And, she's now the boss of her. She her own boss bitch, okay? Maybe she burned a Venus candle. I don't know. I don't know how she got out of that. Maybe she burned a Venus candle.
Could be. I mean, it was out.
Yeah, it was out. And she's always been known as Britney bitch. So, I mean, it could be just about anything. But, it seems like now the thing that I think that is interesting this time around is she seems to be a little bit more in control of the narrative because she at least made him sign a prenuptial agreement. He's not going to get anything. Okay. Well, actually, that's not true. From what I was reading is that he'll end up with probably several $100,000. Can you send me a check to Brittany? Jacki would like one also, if you're just cutting them.
I mean, if you're cutting them.
We would like them, we'll make good of use that we'll use it to help transform the world, girl. But he'll probably get it along with an NDA in regards to not discussing anything about the relationship because, no matter what relationship you're in, whether it be the best relationship in the world or the worst, there's always a little bit of crazy in there.
Right.
You got to have a little crazy in every single relationship. So what do you think about this? And what do you think about what's going on with her?
Here's what I thought is that a couple of things. Number one, to live under a microscope is too much. To have every sneeze, every, bad eyelash, bad eyeliner, I should say, or anything that any imperfection is um, under a microscope, is critiqued. Every pound is commented on. How to live that life. I can't imagine. I mean, sitting in my seat and being a leader of my own company and a leader in my community um,
Hmm.
and having my own every all my own stuff critiqued on a regular basis and turning that into a voice in my head is crazy making, absolutely crazy making.
Right.
So, and then to have lived, how many years did she live under someone else's executorship? I can't remember the.
11, I think 11 years.
So
11 or
so
12. It's over a
and she
decade. Yeah.
she was with her husband for what, 7 years under that executorship. They had a
Yeah.
long distance relationship or something like that, or like
And then a
whatever.
live in relationship. And, then they actually got married when she could legally get married.
Yeah, how much of that was real? How much of that was based in a reality or was measured, and kind of like when you meet somebody at a festival. I remember meeting people at like festivals, and it's like this ideal situation, or or meeting somebody under strange circumstances when there's someone who's the bad guy. And
Hmm.
so, when everyone's at work and they have a shitty boss, and they're all like working together against the shitty boss, they're all friends and pals. But the minute they don't have that antagonist, a new antagonist rises to the surface all the time.
Right.
When that is the basis of the relationship, and I don't know what the basis of their relationship is, but it's really hard to create anything in a solid reality based structure when nothing around you is reality based.
It reminds me a lot, Jackie, of course, Brittany's, I think, 40. Let me check for sure. Oh, she's over 40, girl. She's almost 42. Which in pop music is ancient, by the way. 42 is ancient, okay? Um, uh, it reminds me of a couple of different things, okay? Number one, you know that feeling when you're dating that boy in high school? And he's sweet and he's cute and he's charming and he plays on the football team, and all the girls are going gaga over him, just like all the girls are going gaga over him on Instagram, okay? And you got this cute little hot boyfriend, and you're going to the senior prom with him, and you become the prom queen, he becomes the prom king, and which probably Britney Spears could pull this off. I personally could not. But this storyline, but it's this perfect um, filtered situation, because while she was not in control of her money and her responsibilities and could make decisions on her own, she's basically trapped in this high school type of mentality. Okay. And remember, this is a girl that did not even have a prom. Okay. She did not go to her own prom because she
Hmm.
was Britney Spears. And now you can take that another level. It reminds me of Rapunzel, okay, being up there in the tower of the conservatorship, okay, letting down her hair. The prince climbs up and rescues her, but you don't know what the prince is about until you live with him for a year.
Right, right. And it may be, again, nothing is based in reality. That's the
Right,
challenge, is that that first, the first couple of months of dating, when everyone's excited and blah, blah, all the dreamy and the hearts are popping and all that other stuff, and then eventually somebody has to scrub the toilet when you're living together.
right,
But not in their case. No one has to scrub the toilet. Somebody comes in and scrubs the toilet and makes and cooks the meals and does all those things, and trims the toenails and cleans it all up afterwards. No one has to do any of that real stuff. And um there's a moment when years and years ago I was in New York City, and I
hmm,
was someone wanted me to meet Joan Jett's manager, because they Joan Jett was wanting to create products, and they were thinking about having Coventry create some products. And I'm like,
hmm.
okay, great. Why? That doesn't make any sense, because Joan Jett was on tour, and they were thinking it would be great to have candles. And I'm like, okay, why? That didn't make any sense to me. And and so here I am meeting with all of these people that work in the industry. I'm like, okay, okay, this is fun. I'm at a restaurant surrounded in the middle of New York City, at a mob restaurant with all this crazy stuff happening around me with all these famous people and going, wow, what's happening? And then um, I eventually fly home the next day and I text my husband, okay, I'm driving home, picked up my car from the airport. And the first thing he said, welcome home. Can you pick up some wet cat food on the way? And that was my welcome back to reality.
Hmm.
And I laughed so hard going, thank you. Thank you for like, can you get some wet cat food and empty the diaper bin? I mean, that's reality. That
Right.
is that got me grounded to say, oh yeah, that's what real life is like. And when you don't have anyone that's that touchstone to say, you got to clean the toilet, you got to sweep the floor, you got to, you know, sweep up your own toenail clippings. It's hard. You start drinking your own Kool-Aid and thinking, oh, I'm extra
Right.
special. I'm Brittany, bitch. Whether you are or you aren't. And we all have to get grounded. And if that never happens, things will fall apart because you have no found. The groundedness is a foundation that you can build things on. But
Hmm.
if you build your castle in the sky, it's eventually going to fall.
Are you ready to embrace the age old practice of hoodoo? Well, we've got just the thing for you. Introducing, well, actually reintroducing, Aunt Jackie's Hoodoo Candles, Oils, and Sprays. That's right, we're bringing back the most popular recipes from our wildly popular hoodoo line. These 9 beautifully packaged, specially formulated, and handcrafted candles, oils, and sprays are perfect for anyone who wants to infuse a little hoodoo magic into their intention work. And honestly, who doesn't? Choose from Quick Cash, Reversing, Road Opener, Van, Firewall of Protection, Healing RX, Uncrossing, Crown of Success, and Love Me. Whatever you're trying to manifest, we've got an Aunt Jackie's Hoodoo product to help you make it real. Get yours today at CoventryCreations.com or your local metaphysical store. Coventry Creations, we've got a candle for that.
The interesting thing in her chart is that Brittany has Venus at 25 degrees of Capricorn, and Pluto, of course, is now back in Capricorn. He was in Aquarius for a little while, went back into Capricorn, um, and is applying to a conjunction with that Venus. And Venus is our relationships. Okay, it's our connection to other people, for good or for ill. Okay, because the seventh house has associations with our enemies as much as it does love. When Pluto goes across that particular planet, Pluto is going to uproot and it's going to take everything that is not working out of the relationship and everything that is stinking and is dysfunctional and uh, out of control, and it's going to unearth all of this. Okay. And, a lot of people are, I haven't paid really close attention to her for the past couple of years. If she releases an album, I might pay more attention to her, but she hasn't released an album in a while, so what's the point? Um,
Go live your life.
um,
She's
yeah,
going
go
to live
live
her
your
life
life.
and you're living
Exactly.
yours. It's okay. It's not
Right.
right. You're not a super
So,
fan.
right. So basically, um, what I find interesting is this particular transit occurring. And with Pluto being retrograde, there's something that's having to be redone here. Okay. And a lot of people have been commenting on her kind of bizarre Instagram videos where she's dancing around and riding poles. And, if she wants to ride a pole, let her ride a pole. Well, who cares? I mean, nobody was complaining about this when she was an 18-year-old Pop Tart. Okay. It's interesting to me now that she's a 42-year-old woman with kids. She can't ride the pole no more. I mean, everybody's mad that she's riding the pole. What's
Okay.
up?
Okay, how many women at any age are putting up their Instagram videos when they're, taking their pole dancing class? I mean, or whatever, or dancing, whatever. It's
Right.
because it's because she's Brittany.
Right.
What does it matter? Keep going, keep going, keep going.
So, they're complaining about these Instagram pictures and, that she's lost her mind again. There seems to be this very large investment in regards to, in at least the collective structure, that Brittany is about to fall apart at any moment. She's crazy. She's insane. Is she going to shave her head again? What is she going to do next? Is she going to drive around to the convenience store with her baby on her lap, and get her kids taken away from her, which happened, or what? How many women in this country, Jackie, needing in the quickness, strapped their kid on their freaking lap and drove down the street. I mean, it's just an instinct at times. And if you're Sally Homemaker, yeah, that's okay. You can go down to the 7-Eleven, girl. But if you're Britney Spears, you're losing your kids. And it is where I think a lot of, with her, it kind of triggered me because I've been getting, Lilith, since I started studying her, just won't get the hell out of my life. Okay. She here, girl. I mean, she's just visiting every other day. Um, uh, but what I found interesting is from the vilification aspect of Lilith. She originally started as a Sumerian goddess. And one of the things that tends to happen when a new religion tends to take control, okay, is that you have to vilify the old gods. Okay, the old gods become the bad guys.
Well, I thought as a Sumerian goddess, she was not a primary goddess. She was a handmaiden.
She belonged to a group.
Yeah, she
No,
belonged to a group.
she was part of the archetype of Lamashtu, who was this hideous demon that sucked babies' blood and licked up their marrow. After which she sucked them. She just had a great time with those babies. Okay, that's just going to be the way that I put it. Yeah, that's the best description. She just had a great time with those babies. She killed unborn children, and
Somebody's gonna
then
get blamed.
her mythology. It isn't until this Lamashtu archetype gets kind of chopped up, okay, and then she gets amalgamated with Ishtar and all of this other stuff that you start to see this handmaiden type of stuff come out. But even the handmaiden wasn't all that good. She was sucking some blood too, girl, and doing all of these other things.
Yeah, there was such brutality in so many of the deities had a lot of brutality about them. So, no one was faultless or blameless.
Even when you look at the roots of Yahweh, who was, before he became Yahweh, he was a storm god called El. Okay. And he was quite brutal also. And even if you look in the Old Testament, there's places in which you think to yourself, how could this be a loving God?
It was pretty brutal, though.
Right, pretty brutal. And Lilith, of course, she doesn't even take on. She's not mentioned in the Bible except in one verse in Isaiah. Okay, she does not show up in regards to the historical period until the year 700. Okay, so we're now in the 700s, in which, of course, that she is, becomes the first wife of Adam, because every man needs a first wife. And Adam seemed to be this, for lack of a better term, a little bitch boy. So he had like a temper tantrum and cried to God because Lilith actually wanted to get on top. I mean, and if you think about it, Jackie, how vanilla was this guy? I mean, he wouldn't even let Lilith on top. So she got upset and a little bit cranky about it. Okay, and decided she uses, interestingly enough, the 72 names of God, okay, which is used in Exodus to part the Red Sea. She uses the 72 names of God to escape from Adam, okay? And of course, where does one escape when, you're trying to hide from your vanilla husband? Of course, you go to the Red Sea and hide in a cave, okay? And of course, Adam gets on the phone with Daddy and says, Daddy, my wife just ran off on me because I wouldn't let her ride me. And the next thing that you know is God is now sending some angels, okay, to get Lilith. And Lilith says no. So God curses her and says, you're going to give birth to 400 demons a day. It's just this craziness.
So annoying.
That's why I have to now you know why I have to have this conversation with you, because it's just out of control. But she's also the oldest developed goddess in history. She is the most developed goddess with the most stories and the longest period in history. Why?
Okay, so throughout history, if you think about the goddesses who, let's put Lilith over, over up here, not to the side, just up here for a second, because she's not going to be put to the side ever.
Right.
But if you look at like
Don't put
Hera,
baby in the corner.
no,
Yeah.
not in the corner. She's going to be put up here. But if you look at Hera, Hera is just this amazing goddess of the hearth, of childbirth, of the home, of amazing powers, but was marked as shrill and a total bitch because she didn't like being cheated on. She couldn't punish Zeus, so she took her wrath out on who did I say that right? Yeah. She took her wrath out on his conquest. To punish him, to say, look, you stop messing around because I'm coming behind you. So then she was turned into the bad guy. As and even if you look at in movies that are made about Greek gods or different stories, I mean, don't get Hera's wrath, but yet at the same time, she was so important. I mean, she was the loving mother. So if you just look at all these, how
and the divine consort. I mean, Aphrodite was not the divine consort,
right? And so
Hera was.
So, whenever a woman, a feminine figure, asserts her power, she is vilified over and over and over again. But the power of Lilith is that she sustains. She continues to come back. She went away for a while, but now she's retained her power. And I think that's why I think her having power is what the fact that she is powerful and has so much power. If you think about how much woman's power scares the patriarchy, because women have the power of life, of creating life. And if women have the power of creating life and the power of the household and the power of the community and the power of influence and the power and the power and the power and the power, it's too much. It's too much. What's the guy do? The man has to go and bring the food back or something, So it feels inequitable to them. So there's this great story about that Zora Neale Hurst has in one of her books about the keys to the kingdom, about an Adam and Eve story about the keys to the kingdom. Do you know that story?
No, tell it.
Okay. So Adam and Eve are I'm gonna probably tell it wrong, but I'm gonna get it as right as I can. So here's Adam and Eve.
As long as you get the point. I mean,
here's Adam and Eve.
This is the internet. I mean,
living in this house, and Adam doesn't like that Eve has equal power that he does. So he went to God and said, God, I need you to make me stronger than Eve, and I need you to give me more power, and so I can have power over her. And God says, okay, you're stronger, you have more muscles. And so Adam goes home and goes, Eve, you will do what I say. And Eve says, I will what? And he goes, woman, go get me dinner. Go get, and she goes, I will not. So then Adam beats the crap out of her. And so here's Eve beaten and bloody and bruised, crawling to the edge of the forest and praying to God and said, God, why did you do this? God said, well, because Adam asked for it. Adam asked to be stronger than you. Well, he beat me. Can you make me as strong as him? And God says, well, no, I can't do that because I've already given that to Adam. And she said, well, God, what can you do? How can you help me? I don't want to be beaten by him. And God says, well, I tell you what, I'll give you the keys to the kingdom. And she goes, well, what can I do with this? And he goes, well, it's the keys. So she went back and she locked the house up and locked him out. And so the keys to the kingdom is that the keys to the kingdom, meaning her sexuality, her who she is, like she's going to lock him out. That's the keys to the kingdom. Or also she's the head of the household, so she could lock him out of the house or not feed him
Right.
or all these things. So God gave Eve the keys to the kingdom. There's the story is much more profound than this, but this is the short version. And so then Adam was so mad, and then he went to God, but you gave me all this power, and but in essence, God said, well, I just made Eve smarter. So in this is not Lilith, that's Eve at this point, but there's always this need in the, and I'm not tearing down the patriarchy, okay? Not every man is like this, but there's this,
Right.
but if you look at historically,
Define what you mean by the patriarchy, Jacki, because I think that
um
there is a lot of misconceptions about what is the matriarchy and what is the patriarchy, and then I just want to giggle when I see let's bring back the matriarchy and have this wonderful little place, and then she can't get off of this. You know what I mean? She can't get off of her cell phone. Okay, which is a construct of the mind, which is a construct of the patriarchy. Okay, you can't have progress without the patriarchy. So what is your definition of the patriarchy?
You can't have one without the other.
Right.
Okay, there will always be a pendulum swing, because that's the job of the pendulum, to swing. Just like with Brittany.
Right.
Brittany is under a conservatorship. Once that conservatorship is let go, the pendulum's going to swing to the other direction. So she's going to go crazy for a minute, and then if you just let it relax, it's going to swing, and it's going to gently, because it's the pendulum's job to find a level and a balance. So when we talk about the patriarchy, we talk, when I'm talking about that, it's the male control of power, history, forward momentum, without regard to the needs of the female part, the feminine part of the human, or humans, or the self. For instance, I just watching this one TikTok of this young European, young British man who was learning about the menstrual cycle and saying, women have to go through all this stuff and they have all this pain all the time. What's wrong with this? How come we haven't fixed this? When a woman goes to the doctor and says, I have menstrual cramps and menstrual pain, they just kind of say, suffer through it. If you can look statistically at women going to a doctor for the same thing that a man's going to a doctor to, women are prescribed painkillers like at least 50 to 60% less than men are prescribed, because women are basically told that they have to deal with more pain. We're told that we just have to deal with pain. Our pain is hysteric. So it's just interesting that the patriarchy, the negative patriarchy, is that they are in denial that there is a feminine aspect or a feminine need. That there's all, again, in the medical industry, all heart disease studies were done on men and not on women. And heart disease shows up very different in women than it does in men.
Right.
Simple things like
even
that.
Heart attacks are different in women than in men.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Heart attacks.
Right.
So all of these things, so medical studies, needs, mental needs, all these different things are very male centric. The matriarchy, I don't know, do we have any good historical reference to a matriarchy in modern times?
None. I mean, because with the creation of city-states, the need for, each family having, about 10 donkeys and 14 chickens and a cow. And Jacki, tomorrow morning, if you were living in Sumeria, around 4000 BC, you know, you wouldn't be getting up and making a candle girl. You'd be getting up to, you know, get that little cow's milk and try to grind that into something for dinner. Okay. Everything having to do with progress has to do with something else than the matriarchy. The matriarchy has to do with the body. It has to do with physicality in the aspect of um, life has got to be sustained. Now, of course, there's positive aspects of that, and the matriarchy, or what do I don't even know what I want to call it. The rise of feminism and the rise of um, bringing to people's attention things like systemic racism and toxic masculinity and all of these other things, I think is part of the matriarchy. Uh, but my concern is that the moment that you become, you know, the arch, you know, this is the terrifying thing. I think, like, you know, when I was a kid, they called them feminazis or something. Okay. You know, this arch feminist, when you become that, the shadow side is this other figure. Okay. And just like when you're a toxic masculine male, okay, the shadow side of it is, you know, the wimp, the weakling. That there's something that, you know, uh, psychology on its own doesn't like a vacuum. Okay. And it's constantly trying to create some form of balance and harmony, which we talked about in the last 5 episodes or 4 episodes of the show. And it's about moving the situation forward. My concern is when I see, now, girl, some stuff that I've written about, because I read every book that has been written on Lilith. Okay, every single one that I get my hands on. I'm sure there's probably some I don't have my hands on. If people want to send it to me, just send it my way. You can send it to Coventry Creations. Just mail it to them. They'll make sure I get it. Okay. Um. But one of them in particular, I mean, and this is where my problem with all this is, Jacki, there is no historical connotation to it. It's as I was channeling Lilith, whatever that means, okay? Or my experience of working with Lilith, whatever that means. And that is their particular proof. That is their...
Right. And
I'm having a hard time with this.
Well, you know, and even in
and it may be because I'm a nerd. Let me put it out there. I'm a nerd. Okay, I like myth.
In DIY Akashic Wisdom, we have a part where we're talking about how we're working with Lilith, and it is not necessarily based in historical context. It is based in working on a specific problem, and in the Akashic records, and saying, okay, in the Akashic records, here's a specific problem. Which deity, because we're in a sacred space, we're in a divine space, which sacred being is the one that is most aligned with helping us with this problem? And it is Lilith who showed up. Now, the problem was soul parts of the abuser. So none of this can be historically studied. Soul parts is not something that you can measure and annotate and all this other stuff. So we're dealing with soul parts of abusers in that are stuck in the client or in yourself or whatever. And so when we're working with this, and Patty and I are in the Akashic records, and we're asking for the assistance of the divine being who can help us clear the soul parts of these abusers out of the person. And it is Lilith who shows up. And we say, oh, this is not what we expected. We expected like Kuan Yin or a divine healer. And what we got was a goddess of retribution. Yeah, who said, oh no, I got this. I'm going to take this. And don't worry about this.
Right.
And it was this was my energetic spiritual introduction to working with Lilith. And I was like, okay, let's look at this a little bit more. So for me, no, Lilith.
But that's different than than some of the books that I was. That's still different, Jacki.
So
that's
when
experiential.
Yeah. So when Coventry created a Lilith candle as a limited edition, we've done it a couple of
Hmm.
times now. It's not soft. It is finding that power, that inner
Right.
bitch, that deep power. Okay, I have to pause for a second. This is not a pause for the show, but I'm laughing because I'm watching my chair slowly slide down. I think this is hilarious. I'll fix this in a second. But as I'm talking to you, if you see, we're kind of doing this, and maybe just Lilith is like on me, pushing me down a little
Yeah.
bit, but my chair's like going down, bink, bink, bink. But it's funny. Anyway, with the Lilith candle, it is about finding that power, that voice, to say, "Oh no, we're going to go forward with this. I am not going to be silenced. I'm going to find my
Hmm.
voice. I'm going to find my power, and I'm going to go forward." And I know, you and I had conversations when we were building that product and that
Hmm.
candle and that energy. You're like, "What are you doing? I'm not going to be using that candle because it's scary to you." But for me, when I lit that candle, we built it, we pulled the energy into it, and I've used that candle. It's like when I'm at my lowest, when I feel like giving up, when I feel like I have no power, Lilith reminds me that I do have power, and that's the difference. That's what women have to deal with. Is that we are taught, even now, you think that we're not taught this, but even in society right now, even with the messages being sent to Brittany, how
Right.
dare you go and do something crazy? I mean,
Right.
you watch different male actors go and do crazy stuff. No male actor is put into conservatorship.
Right.
They're just like, dude, you're nuts. Bye. I mean, what was his name? Winning. Who's the guy that says I'm winning all the time?
Charlie Sheen.
Charlie Sheen absolutely went nuts. No one put him in a conservatorship.
Oh.
They just let him go crazy. So, but women are taught you have to give your power up. You
Right.
are not valued unless you are sexy, you have money, you can serve me in some way.
Hmm.
Whatever way you can serve me, that's the only value you have. We're taught in that in media, we're taught in that in society, we're taught that over and over that is our value. And you see these young ladies who are saying, hell no, that is not my reality. And they're being called feminazis. They're being called toxic femininity. When really what they're saying is, I just don't want to fit into your mold of being of service to you at any cost. And so that is that's the power of Lilith. And that's why so many of these women are calling to Lilith, is because they're saying, I am not willing to completely drain myself and become an empty shell of this power. I want to be my own source of power.
And
And
I
now
thought
I shall
about
rise my chair up.
oh, and I thought about a lot of this, Jackie, in regards to constructing how we have this conversation during this particular show,
Uh-huh.
because it is fascinating to me that you know the number one gaming company in the world, okay, evokes this particular spirit in one of their biggest games, okay, and then goes and gets a pop star, okay, who takes on this particular archetype in the video, okay, in which she becomes a warrior goddess during the video that can deflect things and is extremely self-reflective and knows that she is what she is, okay, whatever that is. um and uh and why this is coming up now, okay, at this particular time and space, okay, what in the world, literally, okay, is happening in regards to the feminine archetype in general at the moment, that, and this is a question, of course, okay, what in the world is happening right now that is causing this particular type of goddess to come out? This isn't softcore, okay, this is a huge, just hello, I'm here, you know, to come out in this way. And is there something that you're seeing, or some form of
Absolutely.
a change that you're starting to see? And what do you think that is?
Absolutely. There's this book that I just started reading called The Body Is Not an Apology. And um, the author's name escapes me right now. I'm just in the first two chapters.
Mhm.
she is a powerful young Black woman who has written this book. And just, I was in tears in the first chapter about how empowered she is about, and the stories that she tells about young women who, this one woman who is, um, I think in a wheelchair, has an issue with mobility, and was talking about how she had a man was hitting on her, and she went ahead and had unprotected sex, and was worried about being pregnant. And she said, well, why did you have unprotected sex? You know better. And she said, well, I figured I'm lucky enough to have someone interested in me. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to make putting a condom on an issue. And she goes, your body is not an apology.
Right.
And this is a conversation that these are types of conversations that are not abnormal for women to have. That, well, I just, I didn't want to bother someone about this, whether it's about sexuality or body issues, um, or defining yourself on your size or your hair. I mean, look, I got my gray coming out. I haven't colored it. I'm imperfect today on purpose. I'm imperfect today on the Lilith show on purpose. And because there's this need to be put together completely to be presentable for and it's a message that my generation got.
Right.
And I love how my daughter's generation is unapologetic on their definition of who they are. And this is why there are many different pronouns. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just she and he. There's they, there's she, they, there's he, them. Um,
Although I
it's
think that Jackie and I are still the vanilla pronouns to keep the thing going.
but this is the change of redefining all of this in its time, because there's a new definition coming out. I mean, I thought, that my Gen Xers, I thought we were, cutting edge on how we change the world.
Mm-hmm.
But wow, these Gen Zers, I may be uncomfortable and I may be put on my pins by a lot of things, but they are making even bigger strides in redefining what it is to be feminine and masculine. They are coming out saying, no, no, no. Those definitions, we have smashed them. There is no matriarchy and patriarchy. We're not accepting either. Got a problem to solve, an obstacle to overcome, or maybe you're just looking to level up your overall vibe. No matter what your need or challenge, Coventry Creations has a candle for that. At Coventry Creations, all of our intention candles are handcrafted by skilled magic makers using the highest quality, intention-appropriate ingredients from our own special recipes. There's a reason why Coventry Creations has been the most well-known and respected intentional candle maker in the world for over 30 years. Our products work. So stop wishing and start manifesting. Buy Coventry Creations intention candles, oils, sprays, and other magic products online or at your local metaphysical store. Coventry Creations. We've got a candle for that.
I was talking to my therapist, Jackie, which, by the way, I only have to go to once a month now rather than 3 times a week. So
That's
I'm making
progress.
progress. I'm down to once a month. And, our conversations now are really, what's up, what's going on, what are you interested in? And I told her, I said, I've um, become kind of a little bit neurotically obsessed with Lilith. And she goes, what do you think about that? And I said, well, I have a lot of questions, and I'm trying to understand, and I'm trying, the shift from this particular type of an image to this extremely sanitized, let's put her in a Florence Nightingale outfit, send her to the maternity ward, and she's going to take care of all the babies. Okay. I'm having some problems with this. And I
I don't see
said,
that.
and
I don't see that.
this is the thing that she said to me. She goes, here is the difference. You're willing to have the conversation. You're willing to talk about it. You're willing to, in a safe container. And I was like, I don't know if a podcast is a safe container. I may get in a lot of trouble over this, but a safe container of having the discussion with somebody that like, and trust about this particular issue. And she goes, and it is going to be more men that have this conversation that actually create the change.
I don't see Lilith being in the Florence Nightingale outfit taking care of all the babies. I see her.
I'm going to send you some books, girl. I'm sending you
Oh,
some
well,
books. You could be horrified.
and that's sends it too far that way. That sanitization, but that's not in the circles that in the people that I talk
Hmm.
to. They still see Lilith as a freaking badass. She is retribution. She is the protector. She is revenge. She is abused women and children. She is retribution, baby.
Hmm.
Retribution. She's not going to coddle you. She's not going to, oh, here, honey. She's not going to rock the baby. She's going to make sure the baby has someone to rock them. And then she's going to
Right.
go smite someone who put that baby in harm's way. She's not mama.
Right.
She's mama bear. So if someone's making her a little more sanitized, then that is a different, maybe that's some confusion on their part. But the people that I talk to about Lilith, they do not see her. I mean, like in the game that you're talking about, and with Halsey and the music, she is not. She's not all sweetness and light
Not at
at
all.
all. Not at all. So that's not who we're talking about. But there will always be. I mean, shoot. In a conversation I had about Kuan Yin, and somebody was talking about how Kuan Yin was harsh and vengeance. I'm like, well, okay, well, everyone's going
Okay.
to redefine different things that we can all prove, that we can find even some grain of something somewhere to prove something. I mean,
Hmm.
I was reading a book somewhere, and one person said that citronella attracts mosquitoes. So then I had 5 different
Okay.
people saying, "Oh, never use citronella again." I said, "Well, where did you read this?" Well, in this one book, this one person said this one thing. And I said, "Well, and then here's 500 other books that say everything else."
Right.
So relax yourself. We can always
I,
find a piece of one point of data to prove whatever we want it to prove, but we got to look at the other points of data.
Now, the fun stuff, which is what we're going to talk about in the next episode, is we're going to shift from the historical ideological aspect of Lilith and move more into the psychological and how to use her magically. Okay, because I think that when you move into now detaching yourself from your preconceived ideas or biases towards a goddess, there's several I like and several I am just like a little bored with, and some of them I don't even like at all. Okay, but when you detach yourself from them and look at it from the psychological perspective, oftentimes you can begin to see the shift, which is what you do see. And you see even the darkened portion of her take on more of a purpose and more of helping somebody with their process of evolution. Okay. And then moving that also into how to work with her on a magical level, which is not any different than working on her on the psychological level. Okay. In my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I like where we're going to go with that. I want to touch on one quick thing is
Sure.
I've noticed Lilith has been in a character in many TV shows and movies. I've seen her in True Blood. She's been in
Shadowhunters.
Shadowhunters. She's been in a lot of vampire stuff, for sure,
Hmm.
because she was considered, I think, potential
A
bloodsucker. So
right.
right. So, and then people think that this is so it's they found a piece in mythology and stuff, and then took a creative license.
Hmm.
And so it's kind of interesting. I find it kind of interesting how then that becomes new myth,
Hmm.
and how it's played upon in that way. So I found that I've been looking that up, and I find that really interesting because you and I've talked about modern myth and how modern mythology is created, because mythology is mythology. It
Right.
represents the
The scheme
hardness
or
or
the
the
plan of
the,
life,
the life,
basically.
yeah, what's happening. And so we have to look at that. I mean, we look at it in historic content, but it's the myth in historic content. I mean, these are not real historic figures, but a representation of what life was like.
You can take any modern author that's been around for a while and that's gained any form of notoriety, in from Danielle Steele to Anne Rice to Stephen King, okay, to Jackie Collins, okay. And if people are selling millions of books, okay, there's a reason, okay. And it means in some way
To
or
Stan
another. Now,
Lee.
people may not necessarily like the archetypal representations in the books that are written by Danielle Steele. They might like them a little more by Jackie Collins, or you may not like Anne Rice. Okay. But you know, the difference is especially with King and Rice, they've created worlds and mythologies within all of the particular books that they're in, which 300 years from now, how are those going to be read? I mean,
Right.
you know,
And
how
if
are
you
they
look
going to
at,
be evolved? And is there going to be a goddess named Akasha? You know what I mean?
and you know, like with Danielle Steele and Jackie Collins, you read enough of them, there's a rhythm. There's
Right.
this character, that character, this character, that character. And so you can say that, oh, that's this, you know, there's a definite mythology to all of them.
Yeah.
Here's the savior, here's the one that dies.
Especially when you go into young adult fantasy fiction, or you go into even Harry Potter, which is its own world and its own mythology. I think that that's all there. And I think that the main point, and it's where I have come to my conclusion with this entire freaking huge book that's all Lilith notes, because I'm a little cray cray.
That might be a new book that a Storm might be writing about Lilith.
The what I think is taking place is that over time these particular figures evolve. Okay. And new generations. There's a thing that's interesting in the Zohar. Okay, in which it says, um, and I'm paraphrasing, okay, because I don't have the Zohar in front of me, but in the Zohar it basically says each generation needs to read the Torah and interpret it based upon what is going on in that generation, okay, and apply it to the particular generation. And each new insight into the Torah, okay, is a new insight that's made in heaven, okay. So, I mean, I found this very, very fascinating, and that's where I ultimately went in regards to this Lilith stuff. I will tell you, for me, the psychological aspects are much more potent and powerful, because then we can start to distill it into magic. And that's what we're going to do in the next episode.
All right. Well, we'll see you
So
then.
people are going to have to get their badass bitches out and their little, you know, tokens of badass bitchery. I may even bring my Medusa skull to the next show. I mean, you know, the candle that, you know, I sent you the picture of and you said, who are you trying to kill? You know, wouldn't this work well with a Saturn candle? And you're like, who are you trying to kill? But we will talk about that in the next episode. And make sure that you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, however, with whatever medium that you're using. You can also visit our sponsor at coventrycreations.com. We have a plethora of articles, all kinds of magical tips, candles, you name it, we have it over there. So go over there and check that out. And in the now, Jackie, don't you have a gathering of witches thing coming up?
Yeah, the Gathering of Witches. It's sponsored by, I think, Hierophant Publishing and Wiser.
Mm-hmm.
So check that out. There's coming up in September. I have to check the date, so I'll get back to you on the next show.
Oh, and although that this year I'm missing all of these, I probably doubt that I will be missing them next year. So,
and don't
the
forget,
email box is starting to fill.
we have our show website, thecursebreakers.com, and we have Curse Breakers Pod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We got
They will see
lots
all of that right here.
Right here.
Here.
That you'll see us. Right
Yeah.
there.
Right
Check
there.
them out.
Yeah, point
All
down,
right.
Jackie. Point down.
All right. We'll see you in the
And
next
we
show.
will see you all in the next episode. Bye.